It's a long class.
So just one more.
No, it's fine.
It's fine. So, good day, everyone. I am thinking that probably we can wait 3 more minutes to make for an extra, a waiting period of 5 minutes, because we are expecting one more presenter. Yeah. So maybe he will join us in the next 3 minutes, and then but otherwise, we would start. Check the attendees, please, whether it's the attendees. Okay, no. No, I think you can, yeah. So I think that by 5:35 Nigerian time, we can start. Hi, Fabina, can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly.
Great. How about Taiwo? Can you hear us? Good, good. So, welcome everyone. We are pleased to have you here. My name is Williams Oluwaseun. I am a PhD student in International History and Politics at the Geneva Graduate Institute. And I am the chair and organizer of this panel, which is about Africanizing animals, agency, modernity, and colonial non-humans in history. So this session is the first of a 2-part panel. The second part of the panel will be tomorrow at 11 a.m. and we would also be happy to have you join us. It was my thinking, and I believe the thinking of my co-panelists here, that a conference about African identities may be incomplete without centering animals in the discourse and debates. So this is why we have this panel, which also seeks to Africanize animals, to mainstream animals okay. So we have our fourth presenter. So we have 3 of our presenters are joining virtually, while we have one presenter here in person. I hope everyone online can hear us clearly, right? Great. So, barring any other changes, I would rather that we take the presentation in the order that they appear in the program. And for that, we will be having Dr. Danla Diaba first. He will be talking to us about the title of his presentation is Power to the Animals, Animal Agency, Gender and Interethnic Funeral Rights in Igala, Igbo, Nsukka border communities of Nigeria. Dr. Danla Diaba is a lecturer in the Department of History and International Studies at the Prince Abubakar Audu University, which was formerly known as Kogi State University. He earned his master's and PhD degrees in economic and social history from Benue State University. Dr. Abbas won several laureates to his name, and he has published scores of articles and edited books via reputable platforms. So without any further delays, I would invite Dr. Abba to speak to us on his topic, Power to the Animals. So please bring up the presentation. Any sound?
Yes, there's a sound.
Yeah. Optimize for video clip. Yeah. Good. Yeah, presentation mode. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sean, for putting up this interesting panel. I also want to appreciate the other panelists here and every other person that has come to listen. I would first start by, could you show us the 2 pictures there? Yes. If you look at this, native cow here in my area and the Nsukka axis is called Ishu. Among is mainstream Ebola, they call it Ifi. So in the area that I am looking at, this is seen as the king of all animals in terms of funeral rites. So no funeral, and I mean funeral, not burial, is deemed complete without this particular animal. And so as someone who has lived all my life in the village and in my society, I felt that there was a need to engage and understand how this animal is seen as a metaphor, to reunify class, identity, and maintain social order in the society. And so, as we all are aware, animals occupy strategic place in human society. It is one of the closest companion of man. Even in the world religion, in Islam, almost all the religions of the world, Judaism, Buddhism, African traditional religion, animal occupy center stage. And in our societies, different cultures, different interpretation are accorded to different animals. And so while some are welcome, there are others are rejected. So that is why you see that certain animals are prohibited in certain communities. And as I'm sure that as we are here, there are some certain animals that even at gunpoint, if you are asked to eat, you won't eat it. And so it speaks to how people make sense of the animals surrounding. So please, can you go to the next page where I said the tone? No, not this. Yeah, click. Yes. So in the Igala borderlands, as we are aware, a lot of scholarship exists on Igala history, particularly because of the monarchical structure, the Ata and natural political institution that flourished around the 15th and 16th centuries, extending its political suzerainty to the Igbo axis, the Igbo Nsukka communities. At the high-sun days of the Igala kingdom, the Nsukka group, the Nsukka communities were more or less of a facade of, an integral part and extension of the Igala kingdom. So, but in the literature, a lot has been written about what the Igalas has given to the Igbos, but we do not reverse order and know what the Igalas have received from the Igbos. But I have seen that in the cultural domain, the idea of the Ifi phenomenon is something, an intangible heritage that the Igalas have actually received from the Igbos, which we need to study. The Ifi as an animal is one that occupies center stage in the social mien of the Igalas. It helps them in framing the idea of living, of life and death. So when people die, it is believed that the rituals associated with funeral is never complete without this animal. And so I want to ask how and what factors account for the deification of the Ifi phenomenon. What factor account for its deployment as a social metaphor, for maintaining social order, and in explaining the idea of life and death among the Igalas and the Nsukka people. Please go to the next slide. And by the way, the Igalas have the idea, a cyclical idea about life, that is to say that death is not the end of life after people who just don't die like that. Even those who are dead are still living. So we have this idea that people live a good life here on earth, and then they do not go to heaven as we have it in the Christian tradition, but that they are within, they transit to the word of the ancestors, and the word of the ancestors is the word of the spirit, the Begus. And so, and it is believed that to live a good life, the ancestors needs to be venerated. The man who has died is no longer just a cadaver, it's no just longer a dead person, but has transmogrified into a spirit being. And it's not going to join the other ancestors who has gone before him in the spirit world without observing certain rituals. And in the funeral rites, it is through the deployment and the use of Ifi that ushers the person into the word of the ancestors of his kinsmen. And so this is how the Igalas make meaning of life and death in contemporary Nigeria. But before this time, before the 13th and 12th centuries, the Ifi phenomenon was not so widespread. And even as I speak, in mainstream Igala society like Ida, like Ankwa, the idea of Ifi and the use of this particular animal is still not so prevalent. And so they use ram, they use other lesser animals to venerate the ancestors. But shortly after 15th and 16th centuries, and then particularly before the onslaught of European colonialism, there was a lot of borrowing, inter-ethnic borrowing between the Suka people and the Igala people. And one of the things that those who live in the fringes in the border town borrowed from the Suka people is the deployment of this particular animal for funeral rites. And it occupies such a center stage that people who have not buried their parents with this particular animal are not honored, are not expected to partake, to participate in similar funeral rites that involve the use of Ifi phenomenon. I mean, the Ifi animal. And so there have been reported live cases of people who, because of their religious belief system, because they are now born again Christians or new Malams, and say, no, we do not want to do this particular tradition. There are cases of people who have died, who have fallen sick, who have been afflicted with a lot of ailments as a result of this. And it is on this basis that I decided to engage this particular discourse. So please, can you scroll down again for me? Yes. The Efi animal in the Igala and Igbo Nsukka area, despite the influence of Christianity, despite the influence of Islam, have continued to occupy, the dominant space in the people's funeral culture. And I asked, because this is an ongoing work and also a book project that I'm doing, and the findings are quite startling as to why people within these border communities are using this particular animal. And first, it speaks of identity. And as today, when we had our keynote speaker, she talked about different layers of identity, cultural identity. That in this community, in this border town, the Igalas fear that among all the animals that should be used to honor the departed, that the Efi is the most prestigious. And it's the most prestigious because even though there are donkeys and horses, this is the one that is prevalent in the Nsukka town. And because most of the men in these communities, since the pre-colonial era, have continued to marry, to intermarry, to marry from the Igbos, to observe, to move easily, to cross into the Nsukka community, to observe the funeral rite in this place, felt that there was a need to domesticate, this same particular culture in the border town as a sign of pride and also as a tool for social order in the border town. And so people use it as a sign of class. So it's a thing of prestige, it's a thing of identity. That if you have not buried your father with Efi phenomenon, with the Efi cow, you have not actually buried your father. You have not actually completed his burial rites. Yes. Yes, please. So can you go to the... So I also provided explanation as to why this Igbo culture diffused into the Igala border town. And the evidence is pointing to different factors. One is that of intergroup relations being promoted through marriage, geography, and then issues around social elements like deities that is actually responsible for the dispersal of these cultural traits. And how does marriage promote this kind of funeral rites between the Igalas and the Igbos? Because they have always, because this is a culture, this is an identity that is well established in the Nsukka community. The Igalas who marry the Igbo Nsukka people, it is expected that when your in-law dies, you have not honored your in-law properly. You have not, the best honor you can give to your in-law is to offer as a part of a gift to your wife, this particular cow to your wife to go and bury, the father or the mother. And so, because, and once you give, it is expected that when you also, the husband, is bereaved, it is expected that the in-laws you have given the cow will return the same cow. So, as what I call social order, it's not given without interest. So when you give, it is expected that whenever it happens in your own family, there will be a return. And so this is an unwritten sort of constitution that continues to define how these two ethnic groups make meaning of this particular animal. And there are a lot of taboos associated with this particular animal that I have also documented, which I would like to share with you here. Please, can you move to the next slide? This is just some of the few interviews I conducted, and one report is saying, so let me just go to the next slide. Yes, so this is what one of the chiefs in the border town told me. He said, cow and human beings, because I was curious and I asked, how come among all the animals you don't see any other animal to appropriate? And he was saying that cow and human beings share some similarities. First, they carry pregnancy for a period of 9 months. They don't have punchback. You cannot donate cow for, so this particular native cow, not the Fulani cow. You cannot donate cow for the funeral of another person while your late parents or parents, as the case may be, is yet to be welcomed by the people in the spirit world. You have to first of all kill a cow in their name or names before you can take or donate a cow to another person. This is the practice. It kills people here in our community. Even in Igbo land. So go to the next slide again. There are interesting. So I asked, what happens when people say we are born again? It is against our Christianity. It's against my church. My pastor don't allow it. He said in so many occasions, and they actually mentioned names and pointed to the families. And even at Nsukka in UNN community, there are cases of lecturers who have died as a result of disobeying this particular trait. He said, in so many occasions, we have witnessed cases where some people who have not killed cow for their late parents, but went ahead to donate cow for their in-laws or friends, lost their life after brief illness. It is very much practical and a reality in Igbo land. If you dare doubt it, you will risk the consequences, which is usually death. Again, if you have not killed a cow for your late parents, you are prohibited from eating, not just donating, from eating the Efi meat brought from funerals or even taking Igbo native cow around with ties. It is an ancient tradition that has refused to die. So please go to the next. So there are many rituals associated with it. Even in the way it is consumed, the way the different parts, once it is slaughtered, once you give it to the clan head that you have now come to bury your mother or your father, it is not everybody who is apportioned to, who is allowed, permitted by custom to eat it. So, and the heart goes to certain class of people. The waist goes to a certain class of people. The women have their own. The youths have their own. And so it's properly appropriated. And so, yes, how many minutes do I have? And then the old mothers, which I just wrote about, they also have the role to play. And then, yes, go down. Yes, please, can you go to the video and just play so that. So, if for instance, whenever a funeral involving this cow, this is presented, one of the rituals is that you dance, wearing traditional beads, and then a group of a traditional set of musicians accompany you. You dance around them, and then you present the cow. And I have one of the Ikorodu dance, which is very popular along the Nsukka Igbo Igala borderlands, which So now we talk briefly about how this. Yes. Yes. I think it's the number 3 slide. Yeah, that's it. Yes. So you play it. And even the one. And then go to the picture, go to the first picture that I asked you to show for me. Let me use it. Yeah. So you can now see this particular person, this particular woman, from the way she's tying her wrapper, you can see that the wrapper she wore, there's another cloth that she used to tie. And it's tilting towards the right? So the left. So it means that is a burial of the mother. If it's to the right, it means it's the father. And so it is expected that when she's going to maybe she's from my village, but the mother is from Nsukka, for instance. This cow is going back to Nsukka, for instance. So it is the musician, it is this traditional Igbo dance that will accompany her. Where she's going, she'll be received, they will cook for her, and then it's a whole gamut of rituals that are associated with it. But before I end, I would like to say, so what is the impact of Christianity? This has been a site of contest, violent tension between Christians and traditionalists, because the Pentecostal churches don't believe that this tradition should continue. And so some churches believe that even if you are going to use this cow for your father or your mother, it should not go to the chief. The church should just come on the day of the funeral. The church will slaughter the meat, share it among church members, and pray and end it with glory be to God in Jesus' name. And so, but the question is now, the owners of our parents will ask that, is it the church that gave birth to our children, or it is a way that gave birth to the children? So this has been a site of contestation, and what people do to navigate this is to buy two, give one to the church and then give one to the traditionalists to appease the ancestors. There are even laws around Christianity and all that, but there are no time for us to for me to talk about
that. Thank you very much, Danladi. I would suggest that we keep our questions after the entire rounds of presentations, then we can entertain the questions and then the presenters will come with their interventions. So let's quickly move ahead with Kwabena Agiare Yeboah. I hope I'm not murdering the name, right? So he will be presenting.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. The title of his presentation is Pathways of Multi-Species Conditions on the Volta River Project. Kwabena is a student at the University of California, Santa Barbara. He holds a BSc in biochemistry from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, Ghana. He maintains interest in a wide range of disciplines, including history, anthropology, sociology, and the life sciences. And he dreams about writing a dissertation on the lived experiences of the Volta River, which is the biggest river system in Ghana. So let's take Kwabena's presentation for the next 15 minutes thereabouts.
All right. Okay, just trying to set up can everybody hear me?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you so much. I wanted to start my presentation with a word of gratitude for all of you gathered to listen to this presentation. I am speaking with you from Accra now, and so I am quite tense because I'm not so sure when the lights will go off. But but as we have time now, I will gladly go through my presentation. So thank you so much. I have really admired LSA for such a long time, and it's really a privilege to be here today. Thank you. So my presentation is of the pathways of multi-species conditions of the Volta River project. And as you heard earlier, I am a student, PhD student at the University of California, Santa Barbara. So you would hear a combination of my background in biochemistry as I try to kind of merge this background of biochemistry and what I am doing now as a student of history. So I would like to talk about the Volta River project and then kind of think with you about some theoretical considerations that I'm making, and also kind of provide some multi-species conditions that I am looking at with regards to the Volta River project. So the basic question that I am working with is, what are the multi-species histories of the Volta River? As we all know, the humanities, you have this ordered knowledge, right? Humans sit on top and animals and all that. But as history has been written, it has always been written from the perspective of humans, the agency of humans and all that. But really what I would like to do, different from some of the works that exist on the Volta River project, including my own supervisor, Stefan Misha's work, is to really ask, what are the agencies of other non-humans? What are the agencies of bacteria, for example, or water, the conditions of water, or soil, and all that? So the dream that I have is to be able to put all these entities into historical thinking and writing. So that is where I frame this question from. What are the multi-species histories of the Volta River project or the Volta River? So I would quickly introduce the Volta River project and then kind of think with you with the theoretical considerations that I'm making. The Volta River project occurred on the Volta River, and as you've heard previously, it is the biggest riverine system in Ghana, but it also flows across 5 other countries, including Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Togo, as well as Benin. But as it flows, and I'll show the map later on in my presentation. So as it flows through Ghana, a dam was made with other infrastructures, including an aluminum smelter, and then transmission lines, as well as the Volta Lake. The Volta Lake is very important because what the Volta Lake did was that it changed the dynamics of the river. As you know, lake is impounded water, so the water got impounded, and then it changed the characteristics that the river was used to. The project was finished in 1965, and Nkrumah inaugurated it, and less than a year later, he was deposed in a largely bloodless coup. So let me contextualize the Volta River project so that we kind of have a good understanding of what I'm talking about here. It was first proposed by a British geologist called Albert Kitson. And Nigerians will know Albert Kitson because he was the guy who did coal prospecting in Port Harcourt, such that Port Harcourt became a harbor city for the exploitation of coal. So he left Nigeria in 1913 and came to Ghana to head, or what was called the Gold Coast, to head the Gold Coast Geological Survey. So through his work in 1915, he proposed this particular project. And the idea was that he had found bauxite around Ghana, 2 places. And I will use discovered advisably in this presentation. I normally do not use discovery because I think it's epistemological condition, right? So he was the first person to report bauxite from the Gold Coast. And so in his imagination, there was a river, there was a hole that this river flowed through and stuff like that. So he imagined a dam being made, and that would have been an integrated aluminum industry. So he did that in 1915. It went through many revisions and all that from 1915 until 1965, as I said, that it was completed. And throughout the time, various actors came to being. The colonial state got involved, and later on, Nkrumah, who was Ghana's first prime minister and also president, he actually kind of appropriated the project and made his own in his 1951 election campaign, such that many people think that he actually proposed the project. But it's one of those projects that shake hands from the colonial state to the post-colonial with hyphen state. So it was done in 1965. This is like how it looked like. You have the dam, and then you have the gate through which this is the gate through which the spilling waters come through. This is the lake, and you have some of the gates here also. So just to provide much more context to the river that I am discussing, this is the main. I hope you can see, this is the main trunk of the river. You have the white Volta here, you have the red Volta here, and you have the black Volta here. So these 3 are the main tributaries, together with the Pandari River that flows from Benin through Togo. So these rivers come and meet somewhere here, and then come down. So somewhere down here where I am showing is where the dam was finally made at Akosombo. This particular map that I'm showing you came from the Volta River Authority, which was established in 1961 by a legislative instrument. And in their scheme, also through Kitson's work, he had identified other spots that he thought hydroelectric dam could be constructed. So with this map, you see that there are other places, and up to now, many of them have not been built. Down Akosombo, which I am discussing, you have the Pond Dam that was created in the 80s. And then here, Bui, at the time that this map was made, hadn't been constructed, but that was constructed in the 2000s. There are other proposed projects that never got materialized. For example, on the River Tunnel here, and also on Pra and Ankobra. All of those were not done. It was just the ones on the Volta River that got built. But what happened was that even though Nkrumah had really hyped this project, it was part of what he had called industrial modernization, part of his part of his scientific socialist experimentation, that the project was to be the engine of Ghana's modernization. But he also did some ecological changes. Here, what I am trying to do is to think of the term ecology, in its original meaning as relationships. In the humanities, people tend to interuse ecology and environment. But in my work, what I'm trying to do is to really maintain that meaning, because what I'm really interested in is relationships. So you get to see how I am exploring these relationships that I consider as conditions. So what happened with this particular project was that about 80,000 people were resettled into 52 villages. These people originally came from about 739 villages, and in those villages, there were all these fights about infrastructure, about chieftaincy and all that. I am not really interested in that, but what I'm interested in is how humans, when placed in this ecosystem that I have described, what sort of historical thinking could be produced, or historical thought, or historical writing could be produced. So really what I am trying to get away from is this nationalist perspective on history thinking or history thought about colonial or post-colonial, but to put humans in a longer frame of time, either geological time or ecological time. The pictures that you see here are when folks were resettled from where they were, and they were taken to resettled towns. There weren't many infrastructures, so they had to do they had to clear land themselves and all that. So you see here some of the folks clearing lands, and this is the World Food Program donating some food items to the resettled people. I really like this guy. He's very cool. So what do I mean by multi-species conditions of the Volta River? I'm providing some theoretical considerations that I'm making with the work that I'm doing. I am now, next academic year will be my third year in the PhD program. So I'm still early in my thinking, but this is what I've thought about so far. I really want to think with this project with new materialisms. This idea that there's no binary, like as I alluded to earlier, the Enlightenment epistemology is such that there is order, right? Humans, non-humans, you have object, subject, human thing, nature, culture, these distinctions. What happens if we do away with these distinctions? So that is what new materialism is proposing. And in such a case, what we are looking at is a modern human histories and how all these entities, plus humans, co-become actors of history and exert a certain kind of agency. In such case, then the environments that we see are agential beings. Agential beings, I am thinking of the ways that rivers, in our interactions as humans with rivers, we are able to, tell their temperament, we are able to tell their characteristics. And I have a poem that I will read later on and kind of show what I mean. I am an Akan person. I'm from Southern Ghana. So really my reading of new materialisms is guided by my notion of Akan cosmology. And there have been debates that new materialism, is just repackaging of indigenous knowledge forms and stuff like that. And it's, you can see that in the trends and all that. But really what I am interested in is how Akan cosmologies could contribute to this idea of no distinction between human and a thing, or subject and object. So one of the things that I'm turning to is the ritual archives, which Professor Toyin Folola has expertly written on, which, rivers have priests, and they have their own ways and means of knowledge making. And I conceive these fields as places for scientific practices. So in these places or fields of scientific practices, what can we make of these ritual archives that are songs, that are proverbs, that are sayings, that are embedded in these rituals? And what can poetics teach us about knowledge making? Again, going back to this 18th, 19th century idea of science, it says that it is very, eye-based, observational. You have to observe, you have to see it. It has to be, it has to have a physical material form. But these ritual archives teach us different things. They teach us different atonement. We have to atone and change our bodies, open our cortex to these forms of knowledge making. And so really that is what I'm thinking with. How can we use these ritual archives associated with rivers to think about scientific practices. So just as an example, I have this poem that is dedicated to one of the important deities of the Akan people. So I'll just read the English translation. The river crosses the path. The path crosses the river crosses the path. Which of them is the elder? We cleared a road to the river. The river is from ancient times. The river sprang from the benevolent creator. Secret tunnel, Biafra tunnel. If you have gone somewhere, come, for we seek your path. In this poem, people think that the river has deserted them. And there are many interpretations of that. It could be that there was a flooding, there was something that these rivers deserted their agency. So basically, that is what I'm thinking about, and I'm really thinking with aquatic weeds, because after the dam was created, there was explosion of schistosomiasis. And I am saying that schistosomiasis is just a symptom of change in water, the explosion of aquatic plants, water snails who were attached to aquatic plants and all of that. So these are what I'm referring to as conditions. This is like a picture that I have from one of the publications that one of the institutions did, and this is a water plant. Thank you so much for your time and thinking with me through this. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kwabena, for a very interesting presentation. From that multi-species engagement, I would ask that we move on. We move on to the next presentation by Taiwo Akinyemi, who is from the Department of Sociology at Hallmark University. He will be speaking to us about, the title of his presentation is Dog Fancy and its Social Problem Tendencies, What Every Social Actor Needs to Know. Taiwo Akinyemi holds both his first and second degrees in sociology from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and is currently pursuing his PhD studies at the University of Ibadan. He's also a lecturer at the Department of Sociology at Hallmark University. We can have Taiwo Akinyemi now, please. Can you hear us? We can't hear you. Hello, Taiwo. I don't know. Hello, we can't hear you at all. Okay. No. Are you connected to an external, like an earpiece or something? Do you have an earpiece that you can try? Can you try? Okay.
Maybe when he was connected.
Actually, you are not connected. Your audio is not connected.
Yeah. So he has to reconnect.
Can you? Aha, good. Okay, open your mic now. Unmute. No. Do you have an earpiece that you can? If you can try an earpiece, maybe it will work. We cannot. Your audio is not connected to the, or maybe you can log out and quickly log in again using your link.
And then click on connect with the audio.
Yes, connect via system audio, something like that. Yeah. No, by the time it's asked to unmute, the mic goes out. No.
His mic is off.
No, yeah, not just off. The mic is not connected. You can see it's different from the other two. You need to reconnect. You need to log out and reconnect and connect with system audio. Maybe we can take the next presentation while you try to fix your audio. Yes. So actually it should be Ahundu before him.
Okay.
So the next actually this is the third presentation actually, and it's by Ahundu Joseph Ahundu, who's yes, we can hear you. So Ahundu's topic is sociocultural implications of the use of selected animals for witchcraft practices in Thief society in Benue State. Ahundu is at Benue State University, and we would like to listen to your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Ahundu Joseph Ahundu. I'm a PhD student in the Department of History, Benue State University. I want to first and foremost apologize for not doing my PowerPoint presentations due to some unforeseen circumstances. Although I have the paper here, which I can forward it after the presentation. Thank you very much. I believe my apologies is being accepted.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm presenting on the sociocultural implications of the use of selected animals for witchcraft practices in Thief society. You know, witchcraft is a world phenomenon. And in Thief society, where I am and I'm studying, the use of animals for witchcraft practices and activities is so enormous. You know, most of the animals and most of the animals that we have around are being attached to some certain witchcraft issues and practices within the environment. You hear issues of people turning to rats, turning to fish, turning to dog, just to harm one another or destroy crops, you know. And in Thief society, basically, there is no death that is natural. Every death is being ascertained to be caused by witchcraft. So the paper, you know, witchcraft attached attribute to failure in life is being attributed to witchcraft. Ill luck, miscarriages, untimely death, failed marriages are all attributed to witchcraft in a Thief society. The belief is so synonymous that in 1970, R.M. Dons, while he was going around and discovered that one of the team man had his crops destroyed by a goat. When he asked the man said it is not goats that destroy his crops. It was Bata witches. It is called Bata that destroy his crops. That shows you the level of the belief of a team man in witchcraft, and which is attached to animals. So in a Thief society again, there are fireflies that blinks small light in the night. Anytime one sees them, it is believed that it is used as a lightning point for witches to gather and perform their witchcraft activities. It is not ordinary. People are not always okay with them. People are not always once they see them, they become scared that witches are gathering within that area. So it becomes a witchcraft tool. Then the Thief system. Also in the Thief society, once an owl sits on a house or a compound, it is believed that that day somebody is going to die. It is attached to the death of a person. Once they see an owl within an environment, they start discussing that, oh, first somebody is going to die here. So it becomes a problem. And once they see flies moving around in groups, they say it's the witches that went for their group meetings, and they are just coming back. Also, chameleon and lizard. Once a team man sees a chameleon on the road while going to the market, he will not go to the market again. he will turn and come back to his house because it shows that there's a bad omen to the journey. So he leaves and comes back to his house because of the chameleon or lizard that you have seen on the way. This is also the white rat. White rats are not many in this type of part of the world, but the few that they are here, once they are seen in the afternoon, it shows that there is danger. Everybody becomes scared because they're only seen in the night in the thief society. Also, witches use animals' emblems to carry out their activities during their witchcraft time in the night. Also, snakes and scorpions. Once they bite somebody, it's believed that it's witchcraft. It's witches that have sent that snake or the scorpion to bite the person. So the animals, the selected animals that have been pointed out to use in this current research, this paper, is a cow, but not the Fulani cow, the thief cow. They call it Boauti. Boauti doesn't have horns and it's so huge. It is believed that it is used by the thief witches to store their witchcraft instrument. That is their warehouse, the Boauti. And any house that you go and you see that cow, it means the head of the house is a prominent man in the witch world, in the witch's world, because he's the one that is storing all the witchcraft instruments in that area, in that cow. So the cow is also used to threaten and frighten people in the night. You know, sometimes people go to a function in the night and be coming back, and the cow will come out from nowhere and start chasing people to their houses. Even in their houses, people can't go out in the night to go and urinate for the fear that the cows will chase them. So, and even when the cows are being killed, they can only be killed during the, let's say, coronation of a king or burial of a prominent king or strong man in the witch world. So the bones of such cows are also used for witchcraft. They are not allowed to waste. And it's only strong men in the spirit that are allowed to use, or are allowed to eat those cows when slaughtered at such ceremonies. The cow tail is also used. It's also used for witchcraft activities in the thief society. Then I also mentioned cat, which is known as Patuma. Patuma is also used as an agent to aid the arts by sending them to harm the enemies. The witches also in this world, in this part of the world, uses cat as their agent, whereby they take their witchcraft activities. Cat is also used to drink and obtain witchcraft. If anybody that doesn't have the powers want to obtain witchcraft and become a witch, they use cat. They will kill a cat, cut the pieces, and they will not boil it, cut the pieces, pour the blood, and the person will drink. Once the person drinks the blood, it becomes a fully member of the witchcraft world. So I also mentioned the horse, which they used to call, it is called Nyinya. Basically, the horse is not entertain witchcraft. It is believed in thief society that if you go out for witchcraft activities and you go close to a horse, it will kill you. But the witches turn to use the emblems of the horse, the back seat, and the ropes to do their witchcraft activities. And in their witchcraft world, they don't use the main horse. They use human beings and turn them into horses, which they used to be climbing. And you know, in the thief society, anybody that climbs a horse is a noble man. He has money. So in the witches world, anybody that climbs the horse, which is a human being, has money. And those horses are not witch people in the witchcraft that they are not into witchcraft. They are normal people that don't know that they don't even know that they are being climbed in the night as horses. Or they are climbing there in the night as horses, you know. Then anybody that don't have a horse but knows how to climb a horse can actually carry anybody that they used to climb in the night and also climb when he sees such a person. Because there's a permanent mark on the person's back that is a horse. So that is about how they used to do it. So the socio-cultural implications. You know, like I earlier said, the presence of us in a compound signifies that someone is going to die. So once they see somebody see oil in a compound, everybody trembles, knows that the death of someone is by the corner. So the general, but these witchcraft activities have gone on, and they have caused so much harm into the thief society in such a way that there's general dullness in the society. The young people don't want to struggle again because there's a belief that once you struggle and make money, you'll be killed. If you go to, there are some society communities that if you go to school beyond secondary school, you'll be killed, you will die mysteriously. And so issues like that. So it has turned so many young people away from pushing with the responsibilities of life, and also going into wonderful ventures for the fear that if they do so, they'll be killed. So they end up being in villages drinking local ogogoro alcohol and the rest, just to live like that and survive instead of going out to exploit. Also, night activities has also ceased in the society because of the fear of witchcraft threats in the night. And as death as ascribed as activity, as I also said, deaths are also recorded as witchcraft activities. And death in this world, in this part of the world, is being described as is caused by witchcraft. So many deaths of illustrious sons and daughters of the thief nation who have been occupying many positions in the both state and the federal government have died mysteriously, which is described and ascribed as the cause of witchcraft practices in their villages. And therefore, these are retard a massive societal progress in the thief society. It has also reduced population in the thief society. And intermarriages also are affected this because many people from other, both intra, many people in other tribes, and even some part of Tilan will not accept their children marrying from other parts for the fear that their children will be killed or their grandchildren will be killed due to the witchcraft activities in such villages. So witchcraft has led to isolation, division, and crisis in many communities in thief land. Although there's bad aspect of witchcraft, there's also a positive aspect of witchcraft. Some of the witches and witchcraft practices have a positive advantage to the society. For instance, there are some witchcraft that lead to massive yields of crops for people that are into agriculture. There are some witchcraft that leads to massive successful hunting. People who do witchcraft go to the bush and have a lot of catch a lot of animals. Also, fertility in women. Some women that they were not fertile. It's the witchcraft practices that have helped them to become fertile and have children. And also flourish businesses. There are many people that have a business, their businesses flourish because they have identified and as well worked with the witchcraft practices that have impact on the society. But my paper try to analyze the socio-cultural implications of the use of selected animals for witchcraft practices. And as well, I've argued that the ones that have negative impact on the society should be abolished by Christianity, by anti-witchcraft movements and also agents of Christianity. Then the ones that have positive impact on the society should be allowed to do it so that they, in their only two way, be bringing change and impact, positive impact on the society. Thank you very much.
So, Ahundu Joseph, Ahundu, thank you very much for your very mystical presentation.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm sure that the people in the house and online have different interventions to make, but we will quickly move on to Taiwo Akinyemi, who, as I said, will be speaking to us on dog fancying and its social problems. So you can take it from me, please.
Good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure we can all hear me now.
Yes, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, there are some technical issues, that warrant me, trying to fix it. I want to appreciate everyone, for making this this August intellectual harvest. I want to start by saying that it has been established that a significant fraction of humans cannot, live without animal. That is, they coexist with animal, and why the factors that influences the kind of animals that people coexist with remain debated. But never, animals are not foreign to humans, and what would define a society is actually a de facto of humans and animal. And across ages, climes, and space, human beings have lived with animal for nothing less than 10,000 years. And because of the interdependency and structure of society, human can live with animal without animals. And because of this, there are problems. In fact, the more we look at their problems, the more we are cushioning our problems, because it is something as humans we cannot run away with. Our society is beyond human, an embodiment of two halves, humans and non-humans. While dog, remain the most beloved animals, serving as proxy for human identity and symbolizes so many things to humans. Yet, because of the human-centric notions and nature of scholarship in social sciences, this often, become elusive. There's more concentration as if the entire society is more wholly on humans, whereas humans and animals make a significant component of society. And as we all know that human-dog bonds, or simply put, human consistency is historical and useful in the ancient Egypt. We know the cases of animal being used for certain rituals, and so on and so forth. And even in our present 21st century, animals are still also useful. We hear the case of animal being used for security systems and for other things. So they are past functional and influential on the both sides of the divide. It's also very developmental, especially for all-round development. Dogs are very developmental in its contributions to the real-time human existence and remarkably proved to excellent use. There are cases of dogs being used to promote health of humans, guiding the blind and help those with impairment. There are also empirical cases of dogs being trained to turn on and off electrical appliances and picking of objects, really pulling for those that have physical challenges. There are also cases of dogs being trained to curb criminality, criminal offenses, prevention of protection, and so on and so forth. But one explanation that can be given to this benefit associated with dogs is those who rear dogs tend to be more active than those who do not rear dogs at all. Now, the most obvious benefit of dog ownership are love and companionship. Human beings tend to do finer medically and emotionally when securely attached to a dog, simply because of the unconditional love dog provided. These are like human-to-human relationship. So keeping of dog has a way of providing a sense of purpose and a feeling of validation. The emotional benefit of having a dog can snowball into physiological one. Also, an attachment to this living being usually creates a sort of biological brain effect. Often reduces stress, aid warm breathing rate, help to reduce blood pressure, increase oxygen consumption and anxiety and reduce anxiety level. There's a connectivity of oxygen boost when the dogs and the humans go and stay into the eyes of each other. And the oxytocin, which has been adjudged by the Journal of Science, the most body feel good chemicals. And this chemical reaction play a role in social binding among others. Also, other physical benefit of owning the dog comes from the activities.
necessary to take care of it, such as playing with dogs or taking it for a walk. Statement of the problem. It has been established that a significant fraction of women cannot do without coexisting with animals, while what influences that being debated. It's very unfortunate that while people enjoy keeping dogs with all the mouth-watering benefits provided both by the experience and the study for keeping them. Yet, what is very important to put into consideration is the inevitability of challenges that characterize owning or keeping a dog. Unfortunately, there's a host of empirical works in this light due to, among many other, perception of animality within the scholarship of social sciences because of the human-centric notions that have to do with this. And this, in a way, constituted a sort of great epistemological deficiency that deserves urgent attention of scholars. However, because making sense of the problem around us is like cushioning our own problem too. And this is made possible because of the interdependency and structure of human society. Dog keeping is not in its entirety a smooth journey. It comes with certain challenges that can snowball to social dimensions. The study was conducted in Ibadan Metropolis, which has 11 local governments. And, it was purely a primary data. And the study was guided by those who have experience related to dog keeping or adoptions. From this category of dog enthusiasts, we were able to enlist and select 200 volunteers who participated in these studies. And two categories of dogs were put into it. The first one is what we call exotic breeds and the Nigerian indigenous dogs. The work tried to include these two sets of people, and a combination of those who owns an exotic breed and at the same time Nigerian indigenous dogs. Major findings. These are the findings that were the study was able to to find out. There were cases of biting of owners and relatives, despite the mouth-watering benefits associated with dog keeping, dog breeding, and so on and so forth. There were high cases of dog biting, and usually go unreported because of except it leads to death. This June 19, this month, there were cases of dog bite, even in UK, that led to the loss of a 7-month-old baby. Even in Nigeria and Igbo, there was also a case of dog bite that led to 7-year-old child being by family dog. So another one is excessive and uncontrollable barking of dogs, followed by the inability of the owner to employ an expert to train their dog. So it does become difficult to control. This was discovered that many people just felt the need to get a dog without necessarily realizing the importance of getting their dog trained by an expert who will help them. So there are also cases of dog aggressions and offensive smelling, ribby contractions, and this jumping at someone. And there are also a case of dog stray and attack on strangers. And there's also a report on lack of facility provisions by the owners who keep their dogs. And there was a high rate of quackery, those who are not trained, who just felt it's more commonsensical for them to train to treat their dogs. They don't see the need to take their dogs to either to veterinary clinics or for vaccinations. And they did not limit the treating of their dog to themselves alone. They also parade themselves around, to try to help others to treat their dogs. There also is, a losing sticking out, littering the streets at the public dustbin. These are one of the cases that were cited, that were discovered through the help of this study.
Could
Case of
you
harassment
could you please just wrap up in like a minute or two, please, so that we can have
Okay,
questions.
All right, thank you. But the most fascinating findings from this study was that people who owns an exotic breed are not just, and the people who owns Nigerian indigenous dogs. It was discovered that those who owns an exotic breed were not just doing it because the exotic breed performs better than the Nigerian indigenous dogs. They were actually doing that because of the social status, because they feel that if they go by taking, rearing or keeping Nigerian indigenous dogs, their social status is at risk or is at attack. So they rather go for the exotic breeds that they even have to pay through their nose, keeping them. So this is one of the major findings of this study, that people do not just keep, people go for exotic breed not because they perform better than Nigerian indigenous dogs, but rather because they felt how society construct owning an exotic breed, how people see exotic breed. Finally, this is the recommendation. Measures should always be in place for total compliance from the dog owners for the obtainable of all needed vaccines for their dogs. This will save lives, especially during the case of provocative biting by the dogs. Then also, every dog owner should always engage the service of a dog trainer, because this will help to save lives and for coexistence of both animals and humans. The government needs to take proactive measures in combating the issue of parkwood racketeering the dog's world. There is a huge and obvious high activity of parkwood in circulation. Then lastly, people need to be encouraged to keep the breed that they can afford, not necessarily follow what people will say.
All right.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So once again, we want to appreciate all our presenters for their work, and I would want to welcome any comments or questions in the house. There are already 2 hands, and I'll ask you to just make your intervention one after the other.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to the person that presented from Benue on witchcraft. But I would like to say that most of the comments were more like myths and superstitions than established research. Because if you're making that kind of research, we need to know the methodology is very important, to know those that were interviewed and then the responses from all of those people. So the methodology needs serious rigor. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all the presenters for your wonderful presentation. My comment goes to Dr. Danla Diaba in his presentation. There is a dimension that I want him to also reflect on. The economic dimension was not really pronounced in his presentation. In the case of the capital-intensive nature of the funeral programs in those 2 areas he mentioned is of importance to us. And I also want him to also look at the implication of a situation where somebody who give out the animal and when there is need to return cannot afford the costs of returning. What is the implication and what remedy? What can be done in those kind of situations to remedy that kind of situation? I want you to also consider that.
So, and then we can have Professor Shimakuri.
Okay, so mine is very simple. About Danladi. Okay, so I think this is very interesting. Just a few weeks ago, my father died 20 years ago, right? A few months back, my nephew, who belongs to a Pentecostal church, called the family and he said he saw my father in a dream And my father sent a message through him. And he said there are certain things I was supposed to do which has not been done. So I was kind of like, this is a charismatic guy, right? Why is he this kind of message, right? And so when my father died, where I come from, the tradition is you give goat. Cow is sort of like, ceremony. And I felt, okay, now we can just give the community a cow, which we did, right? Okay, so my question is like, in the context of the animal that is presented, right? How do you sort of take into account the issue of class, right? And identity? Are there certain people within the community who you can't perform that ceremony, right? Depending on their identity, not just economics, right? Okay. And then gender. Are there differences in terms of what you perform for women and what you perform for men? And Kwabena, yes, Kwabena. I think this is really very interesting, stuff. The transition from science to history is kind of very cool, right? And so what I was trying to sort of think about is, how do you look at, the sort of human ecological dynamics that go into this and put it in the context of understanding the sort of development ideology, right, that came in the post-colonial period. And if you may think perhaps about whether those kind of projects were the most appropriate for the level of development and what the dam has done for Ghana in terms of industrial development, right? Okay, thank you.
So thank you, everyone. And I would add one little question on top of all of this before our panelists will respond. And my question will go to Danladi and Ahundu. It's a simple question. Can you unpack the animals you are talking to us about? So which animal is known as Efi or Eshu, right? And then which particular animal are you also calling Bua Oti? What type of cow is it? What is the species? Is it the Muturu or the Keteku breed? Thank you. Over to you. Anyone can jump in, really.
I can start. Thank you, Professor, so much for your question. I will start with the developmental paradigm. So that is what the current historiography looks at the dam. It looks at it from the framework of development. What my intervention is that we need to go beyond that frame of thought. We need to go beyond development, because implicit in this idea of development is what I think the earlier historians have grappled with, which is a question of the state, is the question of nationalism and all that. So really, conveniently, maybe what I'm trying to do is to look at a different time, right? So I'm really particular about the idea of time, which is that I'm not thinking only of human political time, right, as colonial, post-colonial, but I'm also thinking of different frames of time, like geological time, right? And what happens if you place humans within this longer tradition of time? Okay, so that is what my intervention is on. And so through that, I am also looking at the works of scientists. I did that work last summer. I went to one research institution, looked at what historically scientists have come up with. So it's one of my sources that I'm using, and also I'm using these how do you call it, the ritual archives, and also institutional archives from other places. So those are the things I'm thinking with. So I'm really trying to get away from this idea of development paradigm, which what I'm trying to do is to kind of look at a different frame of time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. I think I have a barrage of questions. I will attend to them. Akubo asked about the economy of the Efi animal, and then what if you don't have the resources, the wherewithal to perform the rituals? You should understand that there is a difference between burial and funeral. So the burial is that, someone dies and then you bury the person. If you don't have the money, if you don't have the wherewithal to perform the funeral rites, you could as well just bury the person, plead with the people around to bury. But in these communities, it is believed that you have hidden the people, hidden the deceased. So you say, okay, my father has just died. I do not have the resources. I am not working. Please hide him for me. Whenever I am blessed and I have the resources, it could take 30, 40, 50 years. Whenever you have the money, you are expected to perform the rite. Of course, your father or your mother will understand and that they wouldn't kill you because they know they are in the spirit. They see the size of your pocket. But there are cases where, if like Prof just said, it could be that your father knows the size of your pocket and he's feeling that he deserves more. So there are those beliefs. So then there was a question about what if you cannot return it? If you cannot return it, maybe your children or your grandchildren will have to return it. My interest in this actually began it was a personal thing that happened to me, that my auntie who trained me during my undergrad, she was a headmistress in the village, died, and then I needed to give her a befitting burial because she had no child. So she took me as a child, and then I needed to give her all that. But I discovered that, the father, the maternal grandfather, the paternal grandfather. So I ended up buying 7 cows. Some we had to go to Nsukka communities to ask. Maybe I'm sure, in fact, a lot of them that we went to ask, they couldn't even know. We went to one house, they say, no, we don't know this person you are talking about. Maybe you go to another person. So it tells you that the way, these things work. How does my argument is actually to show that beyond what Said said, that animals in colonial context were also treated as colonial subjects. I am saying that in traditional African societies, there are different norms and values that reify how these animals are appropriated as cultural subjects by the people. And so even before the colonial encounters, people have the different communities in these areas know how to appropriate and relate with these animals and treat them even better than the way the white men, conceive them. There's another online question that came. What considering the conflict between Efi and Catholic? Yeah, my other interest is to show that social order, there's a contestation between a cultural contestation between Christians and Muslims and traditionalists through the Efi phenomenon. Is a site of contestation, a site of conflict, and so they are fighting about who has the right on how this animal should be defined. Is it the people, the traditionalists who are not Christian, or the Christian, the Catholic Church, for instance, or the pastor? And so it depends on how we see it and who you are asking. Are you asking a born-again believer who does not believe that he has anything to do with the rituals, that the rituals are unrighteous, and he doesn't want to go to heaven? And there are also, what if the person has different children, or maybe 5, 10 children? One is a pastor. Some are not going to church. So if the pastor says, no, I am doing church, one could say, oh, I don't believe in that. So I will give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and then to. So So this conflict will continue and is ongoing. And the spillover effect is that people like me, for instance, I had to buy one for the people, the chiefs, the clan heads, and then buy for the church that my auntie was attending to ensure that this reigns. But what if I didn't have the wherewithal? That sometimes is problematic. So that's what I am trying to understand, that society also, conflict manifests not just when we carry cutlasses and one ethnic group fighting over the other, but even animals could be a site of conflict in our communities, and it is playing out in these border towns, refined class. So people, and apart from this, let me just answer Prof. Goats. Goat could be one. Goat is also used, but I focused on this. If you don't have the money immediately, you could use goat. So please hide my father for me, bury my father for me with goat. Whenever God gives me the money, I will buy the and people who there are empirical data. It's not that I was told, I have seen it, of people who disobey this tradition and pay dearly, or even at UNN, where I presented a public lecture around this, there are reports of born-again Christians, who doubted this custom and died, and so please, culture is very important.
This is?
Yes, it's mutual. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ahundu, please. You want to make any interventions? Well, I mean, even though the session is supposed to end at 7, if we are enjoying ourselves, we can be here till like maybe 7:15.
The witchcraft paper.
Yeah. Ahundu, can you hear, Prof?
It's the witchcraft paper, right? Oh, he's muted.
Ahundu. Yeah, you can.
Okay. Ahundo, I think you talk about a phenomenon that you can find in many African societies, right? And the way belief in certain, animals and the sighting of certain animals at certain times can be interpreted, right, as a good or bad omen. So I think it's important to perhaps look at it when you look at the broader, context in which Africans and their worldview, right, are related to how they look at the world, how they look at define, events within their society. So we may have this sort of general notion of witchcraft, but in many ways it's not interpreted as, it shouldn't be interpreted as witchcraft. It's kind of, how is the people's spiritual world and worldview interpreted in the context of living, non-living, right? And human beings, right? But also, I think some of your conclusions you need to rethink. Yeah, you can make claims that there's some good things witchcraft do and bad things. That if otherwise everybody will go make money with witchcraft, I don't think, right? So those claims you need to find some empirical evidence to support what you're doing, and then understand the sociology of this practice. That's from the level in which you can begin to interpret.
Thank you, sir. Does Ahundu want to make any intervention, or maybe we can do a poser to Akinyemi? Because actually, I wanted to mention Ahundu. Okay, so for Akinyemi, this is a personal anecdote, right? I have never been interested in pet keeping or things like this, but since the last 2 years, I became interested because we began to have issues with robbers in our community. So I decided to get local Nigerian breed of dogs. Of course, it was deliberate that I didn't want to get a foreign breed as a thing of political consciousness, right? So we got local breed, But some way, somehow, it became an attack dog somehow, became very fierce. And then, yes, and it had an offspring, and it became a duo that, I mean, really, our house is a no-go area to any outsider. But the thing is, these dogs, they sort of know our immediate neighbors, right? They don't do anything to them. And most times when they step out, they don't attack people, but they attack other dogs, right? And even as a day before yesterday, my mom still called me that our dog has killed a second dog. This is the second dog it's killing just this year. And the first time that happened, it was a problem. So basically, I'm relating a story whereby this dog is not attacking other people because nobody has entered into our compound because since we had them, but now they are creating social problems. Disharmony between us and our neighbors because they are killing other dogs. And so most of the dogs they are killing are actually foreign breeds. They are attacking them and they are killing them. And these people are making trouble with us. The first time we tried to placate them, give them some money to get another one. But this time I told them that it is dog issue. Let the dogs go and let the dogs go and resolve it between themselves. I mean, this is not a problem between we as humans with our human neighbors. So, but what do you see about, because this is something that I did not see you talk about amongst some of the implications of dog fancying that you listed. So do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I just want to say that
Please, before you go, Danladi also wants to drop something.
Yeah, just one a sort of question. Maybe I didn't pay attention if you say something about it. What about what is the state of the governance structure of this animal, of these dogs in Ibadan? Because I understand, looking at the Colonial archival document, that the colonial state took the governance of animals very seriously. So dogs owners had to obtain permits, and they were, as public health measures, not expected to be stray dogs because they could pose public health challenge to the people. So in contemporary Ibadan that you are studying, what do you find to be wrong with the way the state, through its agency, perhaps the veterinary state veterinary stuff, I don't know, or public health or local government health authorities, how are they regulating, dog as a critical component of the society? Or they are just there lawless? Are they lawless dogs, or the state doesn't care about the dogs in Ibadan right now? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much. Let me start from Ladi. The study was done across all the headquarters, local government headquarters. As we of, please, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So one of the challenges, one of the find of the paper is just that of course people, significant number of people, take care of their dogs by way of consulting their vets, having their dogs vaccinated and all of that, and ensuring that their dogs are within the confinement where they don't constitute a public nuisance. But majority who owns Nigerian indigenous dogs have a lesser value for their dogs, and so because of that they don't feel the need to put in the best in terms of facilities, in terms of going for regular checkup, going for, of course they hardly foresee, going for vaccines and, ensuring that they don't sneak out so that they will not, create a public. So that's one of the recommendation of the papers that, there should be a sort of, sanctions, so to put, on people that if you rear a dog, for example, you should be able to take care of, the vaccination and the rest of that because of cases of provocative biting. So that and in cases of dogs should also be reported. So that's one of the things. Yes.
I'm asking for clarification. So what I'm trying to ask is, from your finding, is there the absence of state regulation of these dogs, in Ibadan? I mean, the governance of dogs. Because it is expected that even though they are fenced, state authorities should have access, to these houses to ascertain, the heads of these dogs. Do these people have permits in the first instance? The issuing authorities, do they visit to investigate? I mean, to ensure that everybody who has dogs has permits. What is the state of the governance of these dogs? That's just what.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think in that regard, I also discovered that the state, regulatory body, there's still more for them to do. Because for example, aside from the fact that there's no check and balances to ensure that if you go for the vaccination or you do the appropriate as a good dog owner, there also an increased level of quackery around. People who just, for example, maybe just by chance, have dogs and they know how to, you just try and error and their dog become fine. They begin to parade themselves as a veterinary doctors at the expense of those who are already, established veterinary doctors. So I think the government participation in this regard is very, very good, and government need to come in and see what they can do best. So going by the next questions that you said, your dogs, making yourselves and your neighbors, to be. I just feel that that's one of the things we are talking about. Facilities have to be in place. Facilities have to be in place, and part of being part of putting on best player is to ensure that you do something that will not create unnecessary unfriendliness with your neighbors. So if someone, if you are arranging dogs, for example, you put facilities in place. Maybe you have a cage for the dogs. You have a perimeter fence that you feel that can accommodate your dog without necessarily attacking your neighbor's dogs or your neighbor's friends and things like that. I think that is better. Another thing I also find out from this study is that the exotic breed has more tendencies to attack because the very moment you are able to give them the appropriate in terms of maybe you have a regulated number of times that you feed them in a day, and you're unable to meet up with that kind of times of feeding. It becomes they become hostile and begin to see the alternatives, and the alternative can be in fellow human beings. So that's just my contribution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Right now it's 7:15, and we appreciate all your presentation, your comments, your questions. Thank you very much. We would be happy to have you around tomorrow for the second part of this panel in this same room at 11 a.m. West African time. Thank you, everyone. This is bye.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.